got 2 or 3 glass junk piles down here, just where they carload after carload of glass, where they're easy to break, and they broke them and dumped them in. And here is an ad in the Farmville Herald, and this is a copy of the Farmville Herald, the second copy of a Maid, November the 28th, 1890. And they advertised, Mr. Houston did. That's Miss Bessie Saxton's grandfather, if I make no mistake. Either father or grandfather, I can't think which generation it is. And it tells on there what it claimed what the water was good for, see. These guys, sometime after Mr. Houston owned it, these men here formed a company, Lithia Springs Hotel Company.
Please.
And have people come and stay in the hotel. Incidentally, Dr. White, who married one of these daughters, lived in that old house down there, who was Patrick Jackson. Patrick Jackson was a Civil War supporter. One of Patrick's daughters married Mr. White, who was a doctor, and they had a little nursery place down there. Not a nursery, but a hospital, a little hospital. Not Civil War hospital, but necessarily. Just a hospital for his patients. Dr. White's patients who married into this family. I can't tell you exactly. I can look it up, find that place. But anyway, after that time, you must remember now, that was 1865. And in 1897 is when the Lithia Springs Hotel Company was formed. And they tried to cut up the land over here in Jackson Heights and sell stock certificates and build a hotel to draw business. This ad, evidently by Mr. Houston, he may have been in cahoots with them. I just don't know, but his ad didn't come out in this paper until, according to the paper. Then what is the second edition? Yeah, this is the second edition. November the 28th, 1890. So evidently Mr. Houston was still trying to sell water at that time. And these guys didn't try to sell it until 1896. It sounds logical. Now, here is Dr. Beckerman sold it. That's the way they did. They took those little tickets, and they'd sell that man their tickets for $1. And then when he'd bring them a 5-gallon jug of water, is that what it said? 5 gallons. They'd tear one ticket off and selling a jug of Lithia Springs water. When they came around, they had a man who ran a route here in town. They also shipped it by the carload to Chicago, particularly, because we have some bills down here showing where they shipped it to Chicago. This was delivered by a wagon. And I remember a small child in the 21s and 2s and 3s, seeing them with the big 5-gallon jugs on a wagon that had a hay rack. And they took them over to the freight station and they put them in a car, freight car, and shipped them. Of course, I was a child, 6 years old. I don't know where they shipped them, but I know they had it over there and hooked a train up, engine up to it, took it away. Took it away. This is a little piece in here in this book, in this man's history of Prince Edward County. It wouldn't sound right to be history of Prince Edward County, but it's in Cumberland. But anyway, he wrote in here on page 47 about, and you might read it, and give you a little more information. Now, I'll tell you who wrote another piece on this, and you might be able to get it from him. It's Monroe Evans' daughter. And I gave her a lot of information on it. There's only about 2 or 3 paragraphs there. That's it. I wish I could run that old post office for 15 cents. You can photostat it. Just lay that book down on it. All the college, you might not leave over breakfast down. also have, and I could get it and bring it up here to you, a history of the world, printed in 1850, 100 and some years ago. And they mention that there is a mineral spring in here, the Farmville farm. That I'll have to show you. I'll get it when we get down here. I'll sit down to the book is downstairs and pause. Go get it. I thought I had some other papers to show you. I really don't have any whole lot. This is during the Civil War, because it had nothing to do with Lithia Spring. During the Civil War, the Yankees set a, as you know, General Lee was a tree in Sailor's Creek. Came by here and stopped the visit with Dr. White and Mr. Jackson. See, P.M. Jackson was a Civil War supporter. He owned all this land up here, not the house. His daughter, Miss White, he married Dr. White. She was Miss Jackson married. There's some kin, they got kin in, and he ran a nursery. General Lee stopped there a few minutes on one morning, and while he was there, or just after he left, the Yankees shot at the house and shot a projectile, and it went in the wall. It went down the wall. And here is the projectile. We found it in 1940. Just about top there. It's a Hinkle projectile. And the experts say that it came from down here. It didn't go off. See, most shells explode. Boom. This fuse is bad. Now I've got another one down on the bottom with a good fuse on it. This one, the fuse partly went off, but it didn't go off enough to explode the shell. That was one of the earliest artillery pieces. There was an Alden shell, for instance. And of course, there's a little piece there, some more pictures about it. Great. Come on over here. Let me sit down by the light where you can see and you can read. That's the same thing as here in the Hurl in 1940 when Mr. Putney bought it. Sit that down there where you can read. And see, we remodeled it. He remodeled that house in 1940. You see, he's showing you how it got, where it fell down in here. See, it went down through the wall like that. And we took the lathe down and plastered it back. And the shell was still down in there. And it came in the front door. Either the front door was open or the door had been replaced. And it went right down in it. That's that slate top house down there. And of course, this thing here also tells you when this house, this piece here tells you who owned that house and the deed and all about it. This Warren was the first owner, and it went on down how the Thaxtons and so forth got into it. But that doesn't have too much to do with Lithia, except that the people that owned that house owned Lithia Springs. And that would be the only significance of it. You should by all means contact Monroe Evans, who's the manager of the men department at Hood at Baldwin's store, and ask him, Mom, where's Jason? Come here a minute. Because this little girl, see, what she did some research too. It's all laying there for you. Just where's the little girl's name that did the research on Lithia Spring? Monroe Evans' little girl. Mary. And she wrote a paper on it.
Well, we never did see it.
No, we didn't. And I was just telling him he might contact Monroe and try to get a hold of that paper. It would be invaluable.
I don't know what she put in.
I don't know either.
I don't know how much depth
Definitely she went on.
She's supposed to get married next week. I wouldn't get up with that paper or not.
Yeah, well.
She just finished the mass.
Somebody started making a history of Princess of Lithia of Common County one time. Came here and took a picture of Leslie down there on the steps of that house one time.
That was some of the stubborn problem, I believe.
Right. They were fixing to write a little thing on it. I looked in the one on Cumberland, and I know they had scenes come out.
Oh, I would be glad if it's possible to see if Merrill Lewis was granddaddy, but I don't try to point to it.
Well, it would be, he could ask Monroe. Monroe probably, yeah. They probably thrown it away, but But anyway.
I don't know, I don't
you
know,
would be
it may
one-
not, she might not have gone into it, you know. She, girl was a girl in high school girl, but I just don't know how much time she put on. I don't know what it's for. Maybe come in and talk to that. I only said came this one time.
Yeah, I've forgotten all the
I just
circumstances.
don't know whether this, just a theme or whether, she really was historically, I just don't know. But you could ask.
I said it couldn't hurt really.
No, couldn't hurt.
No, I'll take it down and show you the box. Before you go, I have some other boxes. Possibly I have some, when you get ready to. And you can write down a copy or anytime you want it, you come by here, you can look into the material. You have, some people have given you some.
Yeah, sounded like. Sounded
Yeah,
like
stuff you don't
people
have.
have let me. Could you tell me anything about this, Dick Baxter?
Dick Baxter?
His sister's still living up there.
All right, now, Miss Bessie, that's Miss Bessie's brother.
Yeah,
Have
we
you
call
seen Miss
it.
Bessie?
Yes, I saw her the first day.
Actually, I wouldn't say too much about it.
Yeah, she just told me that her brother died,
Okay,
and I left it at that. I wasn't sure if this was the brother or not.
this is the brother. Well, okay.
When
Now, I'll tell you a whole lot about that. A long, long story. And Miss Bessie had this one, had another one, and a sister. 4.
Yeah, I know about it for one lived in Ohio. One lived here, and Miss Luke lived in Dalton.
This man, Miss Bessie, Dick Baxter, we knew. They said Dick, and that's what they call him. They call him Dick Baxter.
Now, he's taking you there.
I know
He's
that.
saving you.
I'm not going to. I'm going to try not to handle I should. 1938. He lived around here. And Dick lived around here, and he was mentally retarded. Certainly to a degree. He'd go around and just go around and just walk all around. Walk all around.
Let's be
And how he come to, I just don't know the circumstances of his death, excepting from hearsay. The police found his truck on the wrong side of the street, parked on the wrong side. You see, they have a rule that you can, all the vehicles have to point the same way on each side. And his was on the wrong side of that street, was parked. And they went there and found him slumped over the wheel of the car, of his truck, rather. And they took him to the hospital. The police had him taken to the hospital, I guess. And he just kept talking all the time about his head. his head. And they don't know, or at least I never was told. He kept talking that he'd be complaining about his head. And when he was in the hospital. And it looked as though it was bruised on one side of his head. Now that, I don't know whether that would come from a cerebral hemorrhage or not. But the fact that it was parked on the wrong side of the street, and it was the day that he made his selection, we always think, and he never had even a penny in his pocket.
I told him that he was robbed or he had a cerebral hemorrhage. I just don't know.
Now,
That looks funny.
but it looks strange to me that a day that he made his collection, he wouldn't have had some money in his pockets.
Yeah. Well, that looks odd too.
Now, it's hard to believe that he wouldn't have had some money in his pocket, but he had none. And therefore, I believe that he was robbed. Yes, and I believe the bruise on his head came from a blow on his head.
I see.
And I believe that although the police said not, but I believe that it came from a blow on his head. And being that he had no money in his pockets at all, on a day that he collected,
You think, in other words, he was robbed.
he was robbed and, and struck over the head. That's how he, it came from, and the car evidently, or the truck rather, on the wrong side of the street, could have just either,
Could have rolled that
it could have drifted over, or else it was deliberately parked like that.
I see. Well, why did you, after your brother died, you terminated the business?
Well, I had to do it because I had nobody to ship the water to.
Did John have any sons or anything?
Well, then he had his sons, but they were engaged in other businesses. And I just didn't want to give up their business. And because to start out on the water business and drop their own, I don't suppose it was profitable to them, and so they didn't do it.
I see. Do you happen to know the date by any chance of your brother's death? 45, wasn't it?
Just 45 and
I think it was 45, but, and it was before the holidays.
you don't remember the day,
But I just don't remember the date. I know it was before the holidays. because, when we went there, we went up there, they put off his burial because of the holiday.
I see. So it was just before Christmas?
It was just before Christmas. And I think that's why it was a robbery than more than anything else. And Chicago is a place that's famous for that, for robberies.
I noticed in some of your brother's letters that I came into contact with, he kept mentioning the gang. And one letter I found, he said something about that they were even threatening tavern keepers to sell their water with guns and not to sell his water.
Well, I suppose that was because he told me that he had gone to see someone that had a gang, and that was that Al Capone.
Well,
And he told me that he wrote, you know, and told me, he said, I saw one of the famous heads of one of the gangs. He said, Al Capone.
Yeah, I read about him.
And he said, and I left him a bottle of water. And he said, he treated me just respectably, and he said, we had a talk, and he said that he told me that he would see that I wouldn't be molested. He said he told me that I wouldn't be molested. And, but it didn't look like I said, well, he must have been molested when they, according to my way of thinking,
Yes, it looks like it.
that he was hit over the head and robbed. And that's what I said, well, it looked as though they didn't follow his instructions if he made any. And because I always think that his death was caused by a blow on the head.
That's it. Would you care to tell me once more about the story of the boy down by the pavilion and who painted the seats with molasses?
Oh, well, that came in my aunt's and uncle's time. That came, I suppose, in the 90s.
I see.
It must have been let me see now, I wanna, no, it must have been in the 1880s. The letter, it must have been in the 1880s, because he died in, let me see,
1894.
yes, he died in, 94. So that must have been in the 1880s sometime. And he, during the summer months, when people would be moving about and going out into the holding parties and things out in the open air and all that kind of stuff, the favorite place would be to come to the springs because they had a big pavilion there. And they had, the pavilion was covered, you know, but with the all the sides open, and the seats ran around all around the outer edge of the pavilion, and they, of course, they'd have music there at times and have dances, and they'd have dances and everything. And my aunt and uncle, in the summertime, they'd always, now I don't know where they got the boys from, I don't know. But they'd always take a boy, and for the summer, you know, just to, and Mr. Hoosterman would have him to help with the grass and all that kind of stuff, and do odd little shows about the place. And one of them was particularly mischievous. He would do things just to get a good laugh out of it. And they used the pavilion. Well, the people would come there and have a party, and they'd have it up in the pavilion, and they'd have music, and they'd dance there. And this one boy, he took and got some molasses, and I guess he had to use a brush. And he put it on just enough on it to stick. And the ladies would come over there, you know, with their dresses and everything, and he'd be out in the woods of the spring there watching. And they'd sit down on the bench, you know, that ran around the outer edge of the pavilion.
Well, I guess they couldn't get up.
And when they'd go to get up, well, they'd be stuck. Well, and he would just laugh himself sick, I guess. The way they'd be pulling and hauling at their dress and everything to get loose from that the molasses. That he'd just brush it on there, so that they didn't notice that anything was on the bench, and they'd sit down, and after they'd be there sitting down for a little bit, why, when they'd go to get up, why, they'd be just stuck. And he would just roll over laughing, thinking it was funny, you know. Which I guess it was. To see a lot of them pulling and hauling at their skirts to get loose. And so I don't know what they did about it. I just don't know. But he would take those boys, and that one did all kinds of pranks like that. And he thought that was well, I guess he got a good lot of fun out of it. But he was the only one that thought it was funny. The ones that was in it didn't think it was so funny.
Could you tell us when the pavilion was built by any chance?
Well, that I can't definitely tell you. I can't definitely tell you when it was built. I don't know. But it must have been, you see now, John Houston died in 1894. There in the 80s.
I guess it was in the 80s.
I guess it must have been built sometime there in the 70s. It must have been 1870 something that it was built, or maybe before. But I just don't know, and I haven't anything that tells me the date.
I see. But do you remember anything about a Farmville silver band that came to play there?
No, I don't know anything about that. But I've heard the name. I've heard the name of it. That they played there, and they played for these people that lived around about that time. It must have been in the 1870s, which I don't, that's beyond my time.
People don't keep a record of all that stuff, it's just lost.
Yeah.
Well, you see, there was nothing to, that was before my time.
You know, a few years back, they printed some things that was in those real old Farmville Herald. You know, way back then, that they have in the papers like that, old Farmville Herald. I don't guess that goes that far back though.
They go back to the 1890s.
To the 90s. Oh, you see, this happened before the 90s.
Yeah.
I've been along with college to have them on microphone.
Yeah.
And put them in, I've looked all through them,
Yeah.
stuff on the list is
Well, this was before that, that time. That must have been in the 70s.
Yeah.
What was your Aunt Rosa like? What kind of woman was she? Could you tell me anything about her personality?
Oh, well, she she was from the old South. She was a dignified,
She wasn't French though, was she?
no,
The French came from your mother's side.
no, the French came from my mother's side of the family. She was
Probably English,
yes, she was English.
most were.
She was a soft-spoken woman, and she was a kindly person. Because if she hadn't been, she never would have kept that girl that was put on her doorstep.
Did you happen to have the paper anywhere near?
What?
Did you happen to have the paper anywhere close?
What is this there? Oh,
No, there was something else I wanted to ask you, but I couldn't remember.
this is, you want the light on it so dark?
No, ma'am, this is fine. It's pretty
See, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
That drank of the, she saw it bubbling up out of the ground.
And she drank it and liked it, and then it began to open up.
Yes, and she said, he said that she thought that water helped her. She said she thought after drinking that water, she went there the next day and drank it, and she said she believed it helped her. Now, whether that was just psychological, I don't know. But that's what was told.
Well, good water is very important for your body.
It is.
You know that yourself.
I remember what I wanted to ask you was, I read that in March of 1931, the federal government confiscated 100 demijohns from John because of the analysis on the label of the bottle.
Yes, they objected to calling it Lithia water. They said that there was I don't know now how it was started. I can't tell you that. But they, and you see that in 1894, that was beyond our time of doing business with the spring. You see, now, my brother never had anything to do with the springs in 1894. Because Aunt Rose had them leased. The springs were leased to a man by the name of Paulette.
Samuel Paulette?
Yes, Samuel Jr. It wasn't the old S.W. Paulette, but he had a kind of a hardware store over in Farmville, S.W. Paulette. But his son, S.W. Paulette Jr., leased these springs. from my aunt. For, I just don't know how long his lease was to run, I just don't know. But he leased the springs from her.
Okay. So in 1931, when the government took those demijohn because they objected to the water being called Lithia water, did your brother have a Professor Bristow testify in court?
No. My brother never had no court action at all.
No court action?
There never was no court action during his tenant of the springs.
Let's see. I found out something interesting while I was at school. The water analysis was sent to the school I'm going to for analysis. It was sent to Columbia University,
Yes,
Corcoran Scientific School, and I thought it was funny
Yeah,
because I'm in Columbian College,
yeah,
and there was a Corcoran Hall just down the street.
yeah.
So when I looked it up, there was a letter from a Charles Monroe, and he was the inventor of smokeless gunpowder. He's the
Well,
one.
Monroe's in your family, isn't it?
yes.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes, Monroe is in the family. My mother was married to a James Monroe, but she was married in New Orleans. And there was 4 children by that marriage. One of them died, and she raised 3 of the Monroe children. Sam, Kate, and Daisy. Before she married my father.
Could you tell me why the government didn't want the water to be called Lithia water? Why they disagreed with that?
Well, I don't know, that never occurred in our tenancy of the springs. That was before. But, and I think why, because they said while it had a trace of Lithia in the water, it wasn't sufficient enough for it to be called Lithia. They wanted it to be I guess maybe a great big percentage.
But they certainly sold a lot of it after that,
Yes,
so it must have been a certain spring or something that they were getting it from. It was different than those springs, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.